Well, I am so pleased to have with me today Derry Green from the Secret Garden Glamping. And I met Derry just a couple of weeks ago at Jem Boyle's Direct Booking Success Summit, which was an online event. It was absolutely amazing. And something that Jen did that I haven't seen before in many online summits is that she got people networking with each other. So in between sessions, there were some opportunities to talk to some of the other presenters and some of the attendees, and that's where I came across Derry, who was at his, I guess, son's or daughter's football game, and I just got this story of what he did, and I had to bring it to you. But I'm just going to start, Derry, before I introduce you formally, is I want to start with a quote because I want you to comment on it at some point. And it's actually from the movie Inception. And I don't know if did you ever see
I
Inception?
did see Inception, yeah.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I've seen it, but yeah, I have seen
I
it.
was the only one in my family who understood Inception. And I'm going, I understand this. Anyway, the quote was, "A single idea from the human mind can build cities. An idea can transform the world and rewrite all the rules." So
Yeah.
this is what I believe you have done. So welcome, Derry Green. Thank you so much for joining me.
No problem, you're more than welcome. It's great to be here. Yeah, really excited to have a chat with you today.
I've been in this business for 25 years. I have, over the course of the 10 years doing this podcast now, nearly 10 years, and 540 odd episodes,
Wow.
I've interviewed just about everybody in the industry, and I thought I'd heard it all. But now I heard something new, and I sort of alluded to it in the introduction, that I wasn't going to tell the story. I was going to leave it to you to do. So can you tell us, Derry, what it is and where it all began?
Yeah, so it all begins in the first lockdown, so March of 2020. Here in the UK, we had quite a large lockdown. So previous to COVID, I had a European transport business. So I used to spend a week in Spain and a week in the UK, come back into, and we used to do shipping back and forth. And in that first lockdown, I came back on, it was about the 10th of March, fully expecting to go back sort of 10 days later, which never happened. We went into lockdown, we couldn't travel, and that was it. And I was stuck at home. I've got two young children, so my son Noah and my daughter Sophia, so they were 6 and 8 at the time. And we had nothing to do. In that first lockdown in the UK, we had this unbelievable weather. It was like it was summer every single day. So it was ace. And we couldn't go out of our homes as such. But we was in the lucky situation where we live, we're out the way sort of thing. So we're on our own on a piece of land. So we just spent our time outdoors. So it started as a camping trip in the garden. So me, my son and the daughter set up a little tent at the side of the house and camped in it that first night. When we woke up the next morning, the grass was wet and it wasn't very exciting for him to kind of wake up like that. So that first day, I built a little deck to put the tent on for the next day. And then the next day, I built a bit more and a bit more and a bit more. And I got the kids involved, and it kind of distracted us from what was going on in that first lockdown. In that first bit of COVID, nobody knew what was happening. All my transport work into Europe had gone. I'd lost all my customers in the space of about 3 or 4 days. So it was to distract me from what reality was at the time, and also keep the kids entertained while they were off school. So yeah, by the end of the first lockdown, I'd kind of gone overboard, as I do with most things, and I built this whole kind of outdoor garden area with a hot tub and a sauna and a fire pit and a full-on pod at this point. I didn't know it was a glamping pod. I didn't really have a foot in the market of glamping at the time, and that was that. Now, a company in the UK called Unilad contacted me and said, "Can we do a story on you on what a dad had built in lockdown for his kids?" In the UK, people were building like home bars and gyms and things like that. So they did this story on me, and it was me and my son and my daughter sat in this pod, and it was what a dad had built in lockdown. And I never thought anything more of it. But the next day, and their sister company, LADBible, reshared the post, and it got 10 million views. And I was like, wow. And people, because my name's unusual, people started messaging me through social media saying, "Can we book it for a holiday?" And I was like, this is crazy. Why would you want to come and stay in my garden for a holiday? It's weird. But I kept getting messages, and I thought, you know what, why not? So I set up an account on Airbnb, and I put it on that first night and went to bed and thought nothing much of it. next day I woke up and I had, over that first night, it was about 300, 400 bookings that first night. Airbnb had took it and put it on their homepage, and within 2 days it was fully booked for 2.5 years in advance. It just went ballistic. And I was like, what do I do now? I've got to run a glamping business. I had no idea what to do, but kind of set about it. And from that first initial unit, which again, I always, even when I got all those bookings, I thought, well, this will be it. It'll just be like a little sideline. It's a great little thing we've got at the side of the house. But I wanted to explore it more. So I went through the planning process and thought, this has got legs. I want to do more of this. I enjoyed doing it. This is, I love being outside. I love building things. So why not do it more? If I could make a business out of it, great. From there, I launched the Secret Garden Glamping in February of 2021. So almost 12 months later, and that's where the story started then. Since then, I've now got 11 units, so we're building 2 more for the end of this year, which will take it to 13. We've just purchased a new site that's going to open for summer next year. We're now currently fully booked on all of the units that we have, so all 11. The earliest available date we've got at the minute is around midweek, is around the end of 2024 on all of the units. Weekends are now the end of 2025. With some of the units, for example, the Treetops, the Oasis, they're fully booked all the way through now till 2026, which we haven't even put the dates on for yet. So we're now the most viewed, the most booked, and the most followed glamping site in the UK. We've got over 750,000 followers across social media. Our average monthly reach on social media is about 4.2 million now, and we're turning away around 1,000 bookings a week currently. So it's phenomenal. It's been a crazy kind of 2 years of building it up to where we are now, where we're looking at opening multiple locations in multiple countries as well as we go forward. So yeah, that's the kind of shorter version of that 2 year story, but that's where we're at.
Most people take years thinking about a career change. I'm assuming you're not still in the transport business?
No, I'm not. Although it was funny in that little period when I had the 1 unit. So around after kind of COVID, after summer, in the UK, we had a bit of a come out of lockdown, and then we went back in again. So in that little brief period, sort of September to December of 2020, I actually went back to work a little bit, and because again, at that point, I still thought it was going to be a sideline. It was only we left, we had Brexit in the UK, so we left Europe. So I'd always planned to stop things until everything was sorted. So the plan was to go back in February, but I thought, what, I don't want to. I'm enjoying what I'm doing. Let's just do that more. So I never went back in the February and started the Secret Garden Glamping.
So had you ever been in the hospitality business at all before? Have you served behind a bar or waited on tables, anything like that?
So years ago, I used to work in bars and nightclubs. That was my dad. I remember I wanted to go on holiday with my friends, and he said I could go, but I had to pay for it. So I got a job as a glass collector and serving on a bar and things like that. But as far as, sort of hotel accommodation, that sort of stuff, it's never even occurred to me to be doing it. I mean, I'm quite a people person. I get on with everybody. I like meeting new people. So it does fit really well. But it was not something that I ever thought I'd be doing.
So tell me, when you wake up in the morning, you've got 300 bookings. What do you think? What do you think? Did you have a plan, or was it?
I genuinely had no idea. I remember, so that first day when I woke up, and I had, although we had it was about 300 bookings, I had somewhere in the region of 10,000 messages. So I distinctly remember, for nearly 48 hours, I didn't sleep. I sat on my phone and I was replying to messages, and as quickly as I was replying to messages, people were sending me more. And it honestly, because I didn't know what to do. I was like, I can't not reply to anybody. I can't, just leave people off and go, do you know what, I'm just going to stuff this off. So I sat there for literally days just replying until I got on top of it. And then, I quickly realised, right, how am I going to do this? What do I need to do to get it sorted? And I think that first kind of jumping into the deep end kept my eyes open throughout all of this, the past 2-3 years, because it was a shock to me. I quickly worked out there's a lot to do. So, I had to come up with ways and different things that I could do here to make sure my journey was easy and we could facilitate it and expand more and all those sorts of things. And that's kind of the principles that I've used since I've opened. And the reason as well behind what I think is the success of here is in the UK, we don't have multiple location units. There isn't a chain of glamping sites like you kind of have in the US a little bit. Everybody is an owner occupier because they quickly work out there's too much work for them to do at that one site. So I took the principle which I did in my previous business, which was I take a step away from the business and try and work on my business rather than in my business. So now, the site here, for example, that's fully self-sufficient. I don't have anything to do with the day-to-day running. I can sit and think about what I want to create, what people are looking for, what direction the market's going in, rather than being, I've got to change a toilet seat or swap some bedding over or whatever else it might be. So I think that's really carried me through. And that was from the initial start thinking, right, I can't deal with this on my own. There's no way I can do it. I've got to get more people with me.
So I'm thinking about, where I'm looking at you now. You're sitting there. It looks, you look nice and calm, but not too far from you, you've got 11 units that are occupied right now, and people are out there running it, and you don't even have to be concerned.
No, so that's it. I mean, I'm here. It's obviously at my home. It's been a big learning curve and a kind of lot of infrastructure's gone in here now to separate my home from the business, which it is now. But yeah, today, just before I came and did this, I'm just doing a new tile floor in one of the units. We've decided to install some more underfloor heating and doing that today. So I'm going to go back to that this afternoon. And yeah, it works really well because I can be here. And if anybody needs me, I'm only a phone call away. I always am. So it kind of keeps my foot in it enough to be able to kind of keep on top of it.
Well, I've read through dozens and dozens of your reviews, and so many of them mention you. They say they've met you. You're so friendly. They see you as the head of all this, and because that's one reason I wanted to get this question out there. Are you fully involved? Because it sounds like from their reviews that they feel that you are. So that is the perfect way of working on a business. To have your clients feel that you're working in it.
Yeah, do you know what? That has been one point that I've toiled with over the past, I think it's really come to a head in the past sort of 6 to 8 months. So for the first year, 2 years, I was on site every day building something. So the guests, although they might be staying in one unit, they'd always come down and see me, and I'd be walking around, I could chat to them and things like that. As we've grown now, we've got 11 units. So at any one point, we can have around 50 guests a day here. And that would literally take up my whole day, is just chatting to people and saying hello. Because I'll chat forever. I'll sit and talk to a customer for 2 or 3 hours about all sorts of stuff. There just isn't enough time in the day for it. And I realised, people do love coming and seeing me. They love hearing about the story. They followed us from the start when it was just me on my own, messing around in the woods all the way to where we are now. So then it's taking on, again, key people. So I've got Andy now, who's head of our customer service. So we jokingly say he's Mr. Secret Garden now. So he's now kind of replaced my role of welcoming every single guest, because it is a full-time job to welcome guests, invite them in, show them around, that sort of stuff. And then I kind of get involved within all of that. So then I can still be the face of the business, but then the kind of stuff, if they need to know how to use the griddles or how to use the hot tub or the underfloor heating, Andy can deal with that then.
Well, I think you've said enough about sort of hot tubs, saunas, underfloor heating. We need to talk about these units themselves. Now, I know they're set in woodland. You've got acreage of woodland, so they're all. And I in the reviews, people said they couldn't believe how private each of these units were. But camping, glamping. I thought I was glamping when we went from a tent to a trailer tent. And I'm not sure those in the US probably don't know what I mean by a trailer tent. It's a sort of pop-up. They call it pop-up camper, the old Conway Camargue.
Yeah.
And that to me was absolute luxury because it took my bed off the ground, and that was all I needed. But I was still, you still went to the public washrooms, and I think a couple of sites, I mean, this is going back a long way, you understand, Derry. It's going back a few years. But some sites were getting power, and you got little power bars, and, I could boil a kettle, and it was absolute height of luxury. Tell me about glamping as you create it, And yeah, let's talk about these. You call them units, pods, but they're all different.
Yeah, so as I said earlier, what I'm doing now within glamping is pretty much at the very extremes of what you can still class as glamping without being, a hotel basically. What we're creating here is a hotel in a woodland. Each unit I do is different from the next one, so I'm not replicating the same thing over and over again. I like a challenge. I like figuring out new things, and as I do each pod, if you look at the first pod that I built, the hideout, compared to some of the newer ones, the treehouse that we've done, or the wilderness spa and the lookout, it's like night and day. Because I'm learning on my adventure as I'm going through, just like like any business. So now we have, as standard, every unit has, full ensuite, underfloor heating, high-speed internet, smart TVs, hot tubs, saunas, outdoor covered areas, different things. Some have pool tables, some have cinemas. The new one that we're just doing now, I've got a kind of retro foosball table and kind of gaming table and stuff. It was all of these ideas stem from what I like to do. So when I built that first one, and I think, again, this is one of the key differences. When I built that first one, I did it over, it was about 3 months. And it was basically me walking into the house. It was sat out there with me and the kids. We spent every day out there, every day, every night out there. It was perfect. But every time I didn't have something, I'd walk back to the house, pick it up, and I'd take it with us. So it started off with, I needed some more pillows, so I put some extra pillows there. Then I fancied watching something on TV, so I took the TV out of the living room and put it out there. And I did all these things, and I ended up basically moving my house outside. So then all these things, it's not so, again, if it's a single night or maybe even 2 nights or 3 nights, you can get away with a lot of stuff. But if you want to extend that and extend the seasons as well, glamping's been very seasonal within the UK, where we're open. I'm fully booked 365 days a year, 7 days a week. And it's because, in that autumn, winter season, glamping can be, I won't say miserable, but certainly, uneventful maybe is probably a good way of putting it. If you're not giving somebody something to do, they could quite easily get bored. So I want to, anything that I'm doing is always focused on the outdoor area. It's always focused on getting them out of that unit, because the units in theory haven't really changed. That first one I did had underfloor heating, internet, bed, TV, ensuite. They've all still got the same. I haven't really done any. There might be a different style or different lighting or things like that, but the interiors really haven't changed that much. Where I have gone in a different direction is the outdoor space. That's where I've focused all my energy, all my kind of inspiration has been out there. And each outdoor unit has got bigger and more elaborate and has more things to do, because it's in the name. If you're going glamping, you're not going to sit in a pod, in a bed for 2 days in a field doing nothing. You want to spend time outdoors, else you'll just sit in your house. You could just stay at home, it's fine. So focusing on that and getting people to spend time outdoors, whether it be a rainy day like it is today or the middle of summer, it's finding those different things that you can do to encourage them to be outside. That's what's going to create memories. That's what creates experiences for them. That's what gets them to share their content on social media of how good a time they're having. And that's the kind of key point that we've done over other people.
Yeah, and I've again looking at the reviews. One of the things that a lot of people said was the attention to detail. From start to finish, the attention to detail is second to none. There was nothing we had to look for; everything was there. Yeah, and that I just only found 5 out of the thousands probably that you've got. But they were all very similar. It's got a bit samey, actually, Derry. Everybody loves it.
You see, this is why, because I build all my own units here, and this is where my problems come from a business point of view, is scaling it, because it's me. A great example of it, when I built the treehouse, I built all the outdoor area, built where everything was going, and the last thing to go in was the hot tub. And we got it into place, put it there, and I stood back, and it just didn't look right. It didn't work right. In my head it did, and on a piece of paper it did, but when it came to using it from a customer, sitting in the hot tub, the bar wasn't in quite the right place, the TV wasn't quite in the right place, the ceiling was a bit low, and I didn't like it. Where most other people would be happy with, it looks okay, yeah, it's fine. I wasn't. So I then embarked on building a huge extension to the unit that took us another month to do, to move the hot tub to a new location which fitted better and worked better. So if there is, as we go through the build, something that doesn't work, we change it. We don't just go, oh, well, it'll be okay. Because it would have been okay, but we're not okay. We're amazing. We're great. We're phenomenal. That's what we want to be.
Just coming back onto the building, were you DIY Derry before this all started?
Not to this degree. Not in a million years. I'd done stuff, hanging shelves, building IKEA wardrobes, painting and decorating, that sort of stuff, but nothing to this extent. I think the biggest thing I built before that was probably like a little playhouse for the kids, the size of this desk sort of thing. It was never anything like that. But learning, again, like I said earlier on, if you look at the difference between the first one I did and the ones I'm doing now, it's like night and day. I've learned a million things since then. But I love it. It's a challenge to me all the time. Is figuring stuff out. That's kind of how my brain ticks. If I look at something and I want to know how that's done, if I don't know how it's done, I'll have to learn how it's done. So yeah, that really, I enjoy that part of it.
So going back to the attention to detail, that requires all your staff being on side, knowing what your standard operating procedures are, your journey to excellence, if you like. How many staff do you have?
So we've got 14 here now.
14.
Yeah.
And what do they do?
So we've got maintenance, we've got a site manager, we've got cleaners, we've got customer service, we've got social media, and myself as well. Obviously, the main bulk of it is the cleaners. So we have, again, that's been something that's been really, a big learning curve. Is figuring out those processes, and that's learning from our mistakes is the top and bottom. That first year was all learning about, right, how do we make sure this is done right? You give this to one person, they do it, but then you need to check stuff, you need lists, all these sorts of things, which we've built up over a 3-year period now to hopefully have a well-oiled machine. Still, things go sideways every so often, but we're pretty much there with it now.
Yeah, and not every guest is going to be happy. There's always going, and I did read a couple of reviews, and I've seen. I ran a property management company for 20 years, and there's always those who you're never going to make happy.
Yeah,
they're coming to an outside place and complain about leaves on the deck.
Don't even start me on that one. That was I kind of laugh about it now, but it is. I guess now, when I was young, me and my brother would be playing out in the woods and building dens and all sorts of stuff like that. But I don't think people are brought, a lot of people are brought up in cities and towns and things, and they never experience, woodland or outdoor areas, or not for any period of time. And to be distracted by leaves falling in a woodland at the start of autumn, to me, it just is common sense. But I guess from an outside point of view, if I'd lived in a city for my entire life and not really seen a tree, then I would be confused why leaves are falling on a deck in the middle of autumn. But we try and keep on top of everything. We have over 1,000 visitors a month now, so it's geared up massively from the start. But yet, our ratings on everything, our reviews, the messages that we get off customers are always phenomenal. So we try and make sure we keep on top of that.
So setting expectations clearly is something that you pay a great deal of attention to, because once again, going back to the reviews, a lot of people talked about the check-in process. Photographic instructions were great. There was nothing we had to query. The pre-arrival info was brilliant and so well explained. Can you just go there for a moment and talk about how you prepare your guests for the experience they're going to have?
Yeah, so from booking until when the customer leaves, we have 12 different points of contact. So throughout the process, again, this is from a trial and everything. At first, I just used to send them a message on Airbnb when I used to use Airbnb. And that was it. And then I quickly realised, actually, they're going to have questions about, whatever it be, the hot tubs or the bedding or, the outdoor areas, whatever it might be. So in that first bit of COVID, Airbnb did their kind of 7-step automated check-in thing to comply with COVID regulations, which was a great idea, and I thought it was a really good idea. I just expanded on it. So I did check-in process. I made the full experience automated from a guest point of view, and that was down to COVID from an interaction point of view. But actually, the time that it saved me from having to do all these mundane things over and over again worked really well, and customers really appreciated it. And then I could focus on the specific needs of certain guests. So that could be accessibility issues. It could be, things that are out of their ordinary, whether it's your birthdays and anniversaries and things like that. So, 90% of the general questions that we get are covered for by our app. So we use a company called TouchStay in the UK. So we have an app for every unit, and on there, when they book the unit, it gets automatically sent to them, so they can see all the details of the unit, all the photos, how to use everything, what we provide, all these sorts of details. And people love reading it. It's great because it's an app on your phone. They can sit and flick through it, which is awesome. And then throughout the process, again, it's, from a business point of view, we can use all these different points of contact to upsell. So we do that quite regularly. And then on that point of upselling, it then, although the customers are paying for it, it actually increases their, the benefits that they have when they're on site, when they add these extras on, because the experience all ends up being phenomenal then. So we've got all these different ways of doing it. And that's what I found. Again, my time was being taken up early on with, where do you keep pots and pans, or is there any spare toilet roll? And it all takes time. And when that was with one unit. Now we're at 11 and going to 13. I could spend my whole day doing that, just replying about different things. We try to focus on getting it all together in a coherent place, and then it takes 90% out of it for us.
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad you're using TouchStay.
Brilliant.
I've been involved with TouchStay for many, many years. Since its inception, really. Know Andy McNulty extremely well. You must have come across Tyann.
Yeah. So we do quite a bit with TouchStay. They use a lot of our content, and with our welcome guides as well, for when they're doing different social media campaigns and things. I love what they're doing. It's a brilliant piece of technology, and although it's never going to capture everything, that's not what it's for. It captures 90% of the stuff, and that is it's a massive amount of work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, we used it with our property management company with upwards of 200 properties, and
wow.
Just so easy to take a new property on, and to onboard that through TouchStay was just so simple. You mentioned upselling. So what is it? What do you upsell?
So for example, last year our average nightly rate was £220 a night. So that was our average nightly rate across all the units for last year. But our average booking value for each of those nights was £268. So our average upsell was £48 per night per booking. And that can be, the main ones for us are things like pre-lighting services. So we have wood-burning hot tubs, so we can get the hot tubs up and going and ready for when the customers arrive, rather than them doing it themselves. Simple things, selling logs, marshmallows, chocolate fondues. But then we do like happy birthday neon signs, which we can rent out for them if it's somebody's birthday. We do luxury packages, we do champagne, we do breakfast, we do charcuterie boards, we do dessert boards. So all these little things, it helps because we book so far in advance. When somebody initially places a booking, they're booking for 2024, 2025, 2026. So we take a 30% deposit when they book. If they're adding, let's say, £20 or £30 worth of extras, it's only £2 extra when they book. And they pay the rest in, a year, 2 years, 3 years time. So it encourages them, again, on our checkout page to do it. But then throughout the process, over the period of time that we're speaking to them, whether they've booked for, a month in advance or 2 years in advance, we're constantly talking to them about what they, what do they expect from the stay? Is there anything they want to do? Is there any special, occasions are coming for? All these different things where you've got opportunity to upsell to them then. Because when they come here, we've got a captive audience. They come, we're in the middle of nowhere, they're coming here for 2 or 3 or 4 nights, and our guests rarely leave. 98% of guests don't leave the site once they get here. So when they get here, they park up, check in, and that is it. And they don't leave again until they go. So you've got a captive audience. So it's not like the Disney model of upselling where you've got no choice. So they will charge you, whatever, $8 for a Coke because you've got no choice and you've got to buy it from there. I work on the other method, which is actually, if you give something of value to somebody, they see it as a benefit. So we're not overly priced on certain things, but we just want them to... So if they buy some marshmallows, I think we made £1 on some marshmallows, but that memory of roasting marshmallows on a fire with the kids, that is more important, because that, to me, is part of my marketing budget. So if they're going to then share that content to their friends and tell everybody how amazing it is, that's going to bring me more bookings. So I might only make £1 or 2 off some marshmallows, but actually the future bookings, because 70 or 80 or 90 of their friends now want to come, is far more important. So there's all these different aspects to it. It's not just as simple as profit margins of what we make on what, because we could, again, as I said, we've got a captive audience. We could charge £10 for marshmallows or £15 for marshmallows.
Mm-hmm.
We can't get them unless I've got them and they can't get them. So, but it's not about that. It's getting that balance.
Yeah, I love that. And just coming back to something you were saying previously was about making their stays as personal as possible. So you've got to keep that information somewhere. So that sort of leads me on to asking about what your tech stack is, because you must have quite a phenomenal tech stack. But firstly, you also said, when I used to use Airbnb.
Yeah.
So you're not using, I see that you still got properties on Airbnb?
So technically, yes. So technically, some of the units are on Airbnb, although you can't book them because my settings on Airbnb are a year in advance and we're booked further than that. I need to take them down. It's just, in all fairness, it's free advertising. I haven't had a message off Airbnb for a long, long time now because everybody just comes to us. So when I first started, when I needed to take bookings, I used Airbnb as a payment gateway, basically. I wasn't taking the bookings from Airbnb. I was directing my followers and my audience to Airbnb to be able to book, because at the time I was so busy trying to do everything else. It was something I didn't want to deal with. But then once I opened the Secret Garden, so the February of 2021, I then invested in booking platforms, a website, that sort of stuff, to take my own bookings. So yeah, everything we do now is 100% direct. We don't use any third-party OTAs, anything like that. Although, like I say, technically we are still on Airbnb, or some of them are, but yeah, you can't book them on there.
So what is in your tech stack? What are you using for your platforms?
So we use Bedful for our booking system. Most of our technology is through our website. So we have a web designer, Dylan, who sorts out all the back-end stuff. So things like our email messaging systems, our text messaging systems, obviously our Bedful bookings, and then our touch day as well. So it's all integrated on our side, on our website side, rather than using too many other things. But then for email campaigns, that's done through, we was using an outside third-party MailChimp at the time, but we now do it again in-house now through our own web design.
So where do you collect the information on guests? Where do you keep that? I know people often ask, what is the best customer relations management system out there? And I'm wondering what you use.
So again, we don't actually have a separate one as such. So we have obviously all our bookings through Bedful. That then translates across into our website and our emailing list. So on the back end of our website, where not only our inquiries come through, everything gets collated into, it's actually split into several different lists. So we've had ones that are from bookings, ones that are from inquiries, ones that are from social media or websites, but they actually culminate into one giant list if I want to have it all as just a section of email addresses, phone numbers, contacts, why have they stayed, when did they stay, what occasion did they stay for, because we ask certain questions as well within the booking platform to try and get an idea of, again, where the bookings are coming from, Facebook, Instagram, website, if it was coming from an OTA, all that sort of information is all collated on our back end on our website.
I have to ask, what were you doing at the Direct Booking Summit? You seem to have it all. You seem to have it all wrapped up.
So I love the industry. I love glamping. I love short-term accommodation. I just like being around other people who have the same passion as me. Because it's like, there's that saying, isn't there? If you do your hobby, you're never going to work a day in your life. And that's genuinely how it seems. Yeah. I don't go to work every day. I'm getting to do my hobby every day. And it's hard for some people to understand. Your friends of mine are like, oh, you're working too much. I'm not. I haven't worked a day in my life. I just... I get to go and play in the woods and mess about and talk to other people that like doing what I do. So something like that, the Direct Booking Summit, it's just nice hearing what other people are doing. And I can relate it back to me. What I find is a lot of the stuff I do day to day, whether it be the way I build units, the way I reply on messages, the way I do my social media, because we do all our own social media. That's where it all kind of came down to. That's what my main focus was at the start, and is what, what's made us stand out from everybody else. But I do it on autopilot most of the time. So the only way I realize what I'm doing and kind of tie down into focus on what I'm doing is by listening to other people and going, oh yeah, I do that because of this. And somebody might say something and I'll start talking about it, and then it brings it to the forefront of my mind. It's like when we're with me and you chatting now. I'm thinking about why I do something. I'll go, oh, I've never really thought about that. I've just done it. But then that gives me a reason to look into that part a little bit more and expand on it more. And I don't want to, although at the minute, we're a huge presence in the UK. We by a country mile, we're bigger than everybody else. But I don't want to be the person sat here, sit back on my laurels now, and in 10 years' time, I'll be the one sat here whinging, I don't know why I've got bookings or nobody's coming anymore, because the market's changed and the market's evolving and what people are doing is different. And I want to be involved. I want to be part of it for now and for the future.
Oh, that's a great way of looking at it. That's probably the reason why I sold my business 15 months ago, and I'm still just as involved in it as I was then, just in a different way. I don't want to leave. Oh, it absolutely is. Every day's a school day.
Yeah, I can't sit here and say I know every single thing about glamping or the hospitality industry or anything. If I did, I'd be a moron. It's not something that I can say. So I've got to be learning all the time. I've only done it now for 3 years. People have been doing it for 10, 20, 30 years. And I'm sure there's knowledge to be learned out there to improve on things that I'm doing. So anything that I can do, I will do.
Yeah, I still learn something new every single day. Yeah. From somebody, and it's yes, it's and you said it. It's taking that passion, and you've got to be passionate about it to do it without thinking that you're doing a job.
Yeah.
I just want to touch on accessibility and sustainability before we move on to see what the future is for the Secret Garden Glamping. I do notice that sustainability, in particular, is. And I'm very pleased to see this is moving not quite to the forefront of people's minds, but it's getting there. Yeah. How do you adapt to sustainability and ensure that you're operating as many sustainability practices as you can?
We see we're in quite the unique position because our bookings are so far in advance. A year, 2 years, 3 years in some cases. We know our projected revenue for for 2023, 2024, 2025. So we can plan way further ahead and invest far more than general glamping businesses as such, because we know what we're going to be doing. So we're now recently, so February last year, we just installed £60,000 worth of battery storage to bring we had a full site survey done, giving us our carbon footprint and everything else. So we're trying to find ways to bring that down. So battery storage was the first installation. We've got our new set of batteries, so we're doubling that this year. So that's going to be installed in December. So we're going from 50 kVA of battery storage up to 100 kVA of battery storage, and tying that into our solar that we've had installed on the main building, to try and go as much off grid as possible. And then we can, again, the unique position that we're in, we can try things that if they don't work, at least we tried. So we've got, there's a company called Solaris, and they create kind of an off-grid hot tub heating solution. So it's basically like, they look like mini pyramids. They're really clever little things. And they're like little greenhouses. And the water passes from the hot tub through each one. And by the time it comes out the other end, it's heated. And you don't need blazing sunshine, because obviously the UK is not like that. But it brings the cost down of heating that hot tub, which then, saves us on electricity and everything else. So we can implement these things. We didn't know if it was going to work in the first place, but now we know it works. And if it didn't work, yes, we might have wasted a few £1,000s trying it, but at least we tried it. And we're in that position where we've got enough capital behind us now to try and move a bit further than where the kind of flag's set at the minute, and we can try and do more. So that's certainly in it. As we move forward again into the new site, we want to be a bit more ambitious. So there's lots of different new projects coming: solar thermal heating, ground source heating, air source heating, all these sorts of things. We've just swapped again all our laundry side of things to air source from electricity. Although it's a big change because it works in a totally different way in a totally different amount of time, but the power that it's saving is reduced, again, our carbon footprint down massively. But then as a business, it reduces our cost now as well, because in the UK, electricity prices are really high. So it's now got to the point where it's advantageous for businesses to actually start installing these practices going forward. So I think the needle's shifted past the tipping point now, and I think it's going to be a short term before everybody's on board.
That is great. People like Bob Garner, Vanessa de Souza-Lage from Sestonica, they're going to be so pleased to hear this.
Yeah.
Okay, what's in the future? What's ahead? You touched on it right at the very beginning, but love to hear more.
Yeah, so we've got a new site that's going to open for next year. So that's going to be kind of a master, in my head, like my masterpiece of what we're doing here. It's going to be a huge site with lots of different facilities. It's still under wraps a little bit. Nobody really knows about it yet. But then as well, can't talk too much about it yet, but we've got something big that's going to be coming out in February next year. And from that, we want to be opening multiple sites across the UK. We've launched the franchise model to be able to open and increase our presence quicker across the UK, then Europe, and a lot of interest in the US as well. So yeah, hopefully we'll be going national. You know, our audience now is growing day on day and is only limited by the amount of content that we produce. You know, I say we've got kind of two sides to the business. We've got a glamping site, which is where we generate our revenue, but we've also got a social media business. You know, that side of the business is huge, and our following and our audience that we've created is bigger than any other holiday brand in the UK. You know, bigger than Butlins, bigger than Ho Seasons. The only one that's bigger than us in the
Wow.
UK is Centre Parks. And only by 10,000 followers now, we're going to overtake them next month to be the biggest one. And we've got one site with 11 units and me just messing around in the woods. So as we go forward now...
Messing around in the woods. I love that.
I genuinely, that's what it is. It's like... I always, when guests come and they're so happy to see it and so happy to speak to me about different things, I genuinely, you get that imposter syndrome. It's like, I do it for free, but they're paying me to do it, so I just won't say anything and I hope nobody notices. Because it is, I just feel like I'm playing around in the woods every day, and people pay me to do it, which is just incredible. It's incredible. So yeah, we've got lots more to come for next year. We've got a couple of big TV shows coming out next year as well. So yeah, it's going to be a great year, 2020. We're in 2024 then, isn't it?
Yeah. So are your kids still involved?
Yeah, actually, me and my son went down last night because it's just stupid as it is, one of the guests wanted to meet me last night because she'd seen us on Four in a Bed and a couple of other TV shows. So I wandered down because I was with my son, and me and my son were stood chatting to her and her husband for about 45 minutes or so, just about everything. They loved it. They'd seen it on TV. And yeah, the kids love being down there. My daughter, she just wants to spend time in the units. So she's very girly. She wants to sit in the hot tub with her friends and stuff like that. Where my son, it's like a paradise for him. He's 9 years old, and I let him play with nail guns and chainsaws in the woods, something my dad had never let me do. And if his mum ever found out, I'm sure she wouldn't be happy about it. But yeah, if it's me and him down there, we can do what we want. It's like I'm his age and he's my age. We swap roles around there.
Well, that's fantastic. Derry, it's been just amazing talking to you. I expect to see you presenting on the Direct Booking Success Summit next year.
Yeah,
I think you've got so much to share.
You see, yeah, I like doing these things. I'm doing a couple of different events next year. Because again, as I alluded to before, social media is the thing that I've concentrated on. And that's been my main focus, is building up social media platforms, building up followings, building up audiences, content creation, figuring out what drives bookings to sites. And that's what I do really well. But I love talking to people about it. If anybody wants to have a chat with me ever, I say it all the time, just give me a ring. My phone number's on the website. It's me you come through to. It's not like an automated office somewhere. Just give me a ring, send me a message, send me an email, whatever it might be.
I probably will. And we will definitely be back in touch next year because I want to see what's happening then.
Oh, yeah.
So many congratulations on what you've achieved. I think for many people listening, the jaws are probably dropping at what you've achieved in such a short time. But just going back to that quote, a single idea from the human mind can build cities. An idea can transform the world and rewrite all the rules. Well, I think you're rewriting a lot of rules in this short-term rental industry, and I applaud you for it. And thank you so much for joining me.
You're more than welcome. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.